Hello everyone, today we're going to look at histograms. So histograms are very similar to bar graphs, except with a few differences. One of the most important is that histograms are used with quantitative data, not qualitative data, and the bars do touch, and this is because we have quantitative data. Because our quantitative data is usually or sometimes continuous, our categories are intervals of values. So it's not that we're going to have red, blue, and green as the titles of our bars, but intervals from 2 to 3, from 3.5 to 3.9, some interval of values. These intervals are called classes, and we usually choose them so that A, they're equal in size, and B, we have somewhere between 5 to 15 of them. We don't want less than 5 because that's not giving enough information, and we don't want more than 15 because that usually is too much information. That's too many bars to look at. We also need to choose our classes so that every value that we have, every data point, falls into one and only one of these classes. So we don't want to get things confused and going from 4.0 to 5.0 and then 5.0 to 6.0. Because 5.0 would be into both of those class sizes. You just have to be careful about things like that. So we're going to do a couple examples. The first one is to create a relative frequency table and then a histogram of the following data, which shows numbers of hours of sleep. So we're going to do a frequency table, and again, our classes are going to be ranges of values. Now, since all of our numbers are integers, it's typical to use every 0.5 as our end points and our beginning points of our classes. So I mean something like 2.5 to 3.5, because there are no 0.5 values, so I know exactly where every integer falls into place. There is one number that's between 2.5 and 3.5, that's the 3. And then to do the relative frequency, we need to know how many values there are. So if I count up the number of values, there are 20 of them. And so again, the relative frequency is 1 divided by 20, which is 0.05. The next class would be 3.5 to 4.5. Now again, it's okay because there are no 3.5s, so there's nothing to get confused about which class things are in. So again, the numbers that are between 3.5 and 4.5 are 4, but there are no 4s. And then 4.5 to 5.5, that is all the 5s. There are 2 of them. 2 divided by 20 is 0.1. And we keep going. There's 1 6, which falls into this category. Again, that relative frequency is 0.5. There are 7 7s. 7 is the number in here. That's 0.35. And then we just keep going. In total, there are 20. If I add up my relative frequencies, I should be getting 1. So now to make the histogram, again, just like with the bar graph, my heights are going to be my relative frequencies in this case. They could be frequencies, but typically we do a relative frequency when we're talking about histograms. So my relative frequencies will go there. And then here I will have my values. So 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and they'll keep going. And then my first rectangle will be from 2.5 to 3.5. It has a height of 0.05. 3.5 to 4.5 has a frequency of 0. So there's nothing between 3.5 and 4.5. 4.5 to 5.5 has a relative frequency of 10. So here would be my 4.5 to 5.5. 5.5 to 6.5 would be a 1, which is the height of 0.05. So again, here they touch. And if there had been a 4, again here, it would have touched too. So they all touch each other unless it's a relative frequency of 0. So here's the official picture. So again, a height of 0.05 is here, here, and here. 4.5 to 5.5, 8.5 to 9.5 have a height of 0.10. And then we've got the height of 0.35 and the height of 0.3. So again, they all touch, and instead of labeling the rectangle or the box, we label the endpoints of it. So we got the 2.5, the 3.5, the 4.5, the 5.5. Sometimes you use a histogram, you will label the excuse me, the midpoint. So I could have a 3 here, a 5 here, a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, and a 10. I could label the middles as well. It just depends on which one you prefer. I tend to do the endpoints, but you can do the midpoints too if you want. So here's another example. Create a relative frequency table and histogram with the following data set, which is numbers of hours students play video games on the weekend. So if you notice in this table, or this set of data points, we do have decimals. They're not just integers. So again, you have to be careful about the way that you split your class sizes up. And you want to make sure that a data point doesn't fall into 2 classes. So we're going to choose going classes of size 5. So we're going to look at 0 to 5.0, 5.1 to 10.0, 10.1 to 15.0, and so on. So here's the start of my table, again 0 to 5.0. There are 2 that are in that category. And again, if I added up all of my data points, I'd realize there are 25 of them. 2 divided by 25 gives me a relative frequency of 0.08. My next class is 5.1 to 10.0. Now I can do 5.0 and 5.1 because there were no data points that were 5.0 something. So there's nothing that comes between these 2 values. So if there were, you'd have to be really careful about how you labeled your class sizes. There are 5 data points between 5.1 and 10.0. That gives a relative frequency of 0.20. My next class is 10.1 to 15.0. And again, make sure there are no data points between these 2. There is no 10.04, 10.07. So there's nothing falling through the cracks here. There are 4, which gives a relative frequency of 0.16. And then I look at 15.1 to 20. There are 6 of them, which is a relative frequency of 0.24. And then lastly, 20.1 to 25. There are 8 of them, 0.32. And then just to verify their totals. Okay, so again, if I start doing my histogram, my endpoints I'm going to choose to be 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. So I'm going to do the nice ones. I don't need to do the point ones also. So here are my 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And again, the heights correspond to the relative frequencies. Assuming I do those a little straighter, they'd be better. And again, the rectangles touch, and they're of the same size. They're all in things of 5. So 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So they're all equal sized. Heights are the relative frequencies, and they all touch. Okay, so read through the book, try out the homework problems, and let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.